The notification buzzed against my palm, vibrating weakly through the hospital blanket. I thought it was another update from my doctor, maybe a reminder about my next physical therapy session. Instead, I saw the words that cut straight through the pain medication haze. Your services are no longer required. We've cleared out your workstation. Don't return, no greeting, no explanation, no humanity. My name is Ryan Thompson, 47 years old, Senior Operations Director at Summit Industrial Solutions, and I was reading my termination notice while lying in a hospital bed with a broken collarbone and 3 cracked ribs from a construction site accident. I blinked twice, wondering if the morphine was making me hallucinate, but the message stayed there. Cold, digital, final. Something cold ran through me, not from the injury, but from sheer disbelief. 11 years of rebuilding that company's crumbling logistics division, gone in one lazy text from CEO Nicole Patterson, a woman who once told me, "You're the backbone of our operations," apparently not backbone enough. Across the room, another patient let out a low, knowing exhale. I hadn't paid him much attention since he was wheeled in an hour earlier. Gray-haired guy, probably in his late 50s, alert despite the IV line taped to his hand. He tilted his head toward me. "Rough news?" I swallowed hard. "I just got fired from the hospital." He raised an eyebrow. "That's impressive in the worst possible way." I turned the phone so he could see the message. His eyes scanned it once, then they sharpened. Not with pity, but with recognition. "I know that tone," he murmured. "Nicole Patterson." My breath caught. "How do you know her?" He gave a quiet, knowing smile. "I'm Jason Martinez." The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Jason Martinez, CEO of Pacific Manufacturing Group, Summit's largest competitor, the man Nicole dreaded running into at every industry summit, and here he was in the bed next to mine, staring at the message that ended my career. For the first time since I'd woken up in this ward, my pain shifted into something else, something sharper, more purposeful. Nicole hadn't simply fired me, she had handed me directly to the one man she feared most. Jason leaned back against his pillow, eyes still on me. "Ryan," he said softly, "it seems your company has made a very expensive mistake." The next morning, sunlight pressed weakly through the thin hospital curtains. My body still protested every movement, but my mind was clearer than it had been in days. I stared at the phone on my tray table, at the message that had blown up my life, and felt something inside me click into place. I wasn't broken. I was done being loyal to the wrong people. Across the room, Jason Martinez was already awake, propped against his pillows like the hospital bed was just another conference room chair. A pen rested in his hand, tapping rhythmically against a notebook balanced on his lap. "You didn't sleep," he observed without looking up. "Not much." I finally lifted my gaze. My mind's working overtime. "Good. That means you're not defeated." I let out a small, dry laugh. "Defeat would have been easier than whatever this is. It's called transition," he said quietly. Coming from anyone else, it would have sounded like corporate speak, but from him, a man Nicole had feared for a decade, it felt different. Real. He nodded toward my phone. "Do you know how many contracts you personally managed at Summit?" The question hit harder than I expected. I swallowed. 10 major contracts, 18 smaller ones, around $45 million a year. His eyebrows lifted a fraction. "And those clients? They trusted you, not your CEO." Images flashed through my mind. Frantic midnight calls with plant managers during equipment failures. Factory directors telling me I was the only person who understood their processes. Procurement teams asking for me by name, even when Nicole wanted someone else involved. "Yeah," I said. "They trusted me." He closed his notebook with a soft thud. "Then Nicole didn't fire you, Ryan. She fired the bridge holding her company upright." I opened my mouth, then closed it again. The truth hit me right in the gut. Jason leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Look, I'll be straight with you. At Pacific Manufacturing, we've been trying to break into Summit's client ecosystem for years, but strategy alone isn't enough. We needed someone who understands the architecture, the people, the pain points. Someone those clients already rely on." My pulse quickened despite myself. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying," he interrupted gently, "that if you walk through Pacific's doors, you won't be starting over. You'll be leading, fully, without some insecure boss putting a ceiling over your head." That hit me right where it mattered. Here's the thing. I'd been dealing with Nicole's ego for years, watching her take credit for my work while treating me like I was lucky to have the job. "Jason," I said, "Nicole will come after me. She'll claim non-compete violations. She'll spin lies, threaten lawsuits." His expression didn't flicker. "Let her. You were fired without cause. Courts don't enforce non-competes in cases like that, and Nicole Patterson has always been louder than she is capable." I almost laughed because it was true. Bottom line is, Nicole was all talk when it came to actual business knowledge. A nurse drifted in then, checking our vitals, breaking the tension, but the decision forming inside me didn't dissolve. When she left, Jason spoke again, softer this time. "Ryan, you're standing at a door that only opens once. And for the first time since the accident, I believed I might actually walk through it." By the time I was discharged 2 days later, the winter air outside felt sharper, cleaner, like it was cutting away the last bits of shock that had been hanging on me. My ribs ached with every breath, but my mind was steadier than it had been in a long time. Jason had been discharged the morning before, leaving me with a short message scribbled on the back of a folded intake form. "Opportunities fade faster than pain. Don't wait too long. J.M." I kept that note tucked inside my jacket pocket as my brother drove me home from the hospital. He tried to talk to me about my injuries, about resting, about taking time to heal, but my thoughts kept drifting back to Summit, to Nicole, to the text that had cut my loyalty clean in half. When we reached my apartment, a small padded envelope lay wedged between the door and the frame. My name was written in neat block lettering. Inside, a business card embossed with Pacific Manufacturing Group's midnight blue crest, and a handwritten line, "Call when you're ready." I stared at the card for a long time, my thumb tracing the raised silver lettering. I thought of Summit's cold halls, of Nicole's clipped tone during meetings, of how invisible I had let myself become. And then I thought of the clients who trusted me, not because of titles or policies, but because I had earned it. That night, unable to sleep, I opened my laptop. My body begged for rest, but my mind refused it. I pulled up every public document, every quarterly report, every press statement from Summit over the past 3 years. I wasn't searching for ammunition. I was searching for clarity. What I found didn't surprise me. Revenue fluctuations hidden behind fancy footnotes, client churn quietly rising every quarter, new hires placed strategically around Nicole's inner circle rather than where the company actually needed them. Summit wasn't stable. It was wobbling. And Nicole had fired the only person holding together the most volatile section of her operation. The next morning, with a cup of lukewarm coffee in hand, I dialed the number from the business card. My heart was pounding harder than it had during the accident that sent me to the hospital. The line clicked once. "Pacific Manufacturing Group. This is Brooke speaking." I cleared my throat. "This is Ryan Thompson. Jason told me to call." A pause, then a shift in her tone. Warm and purposeful. "He's been expecting you. Can you come in on Monday?" My ribs throbbed, but something deeper, something determined rose to the surface. "Yes," I said. "I'll be there." And as I hung up, I realized this wasn't revenge. This was getting back what was mine. Monday arrived faster than my body would have liked. Each step, from the rideshare to the revolving doors of Pacific Manufacturing headquarters, sent a dull ache through my ribs, but I refused to let it slow me down. The building towered above me, sleek steel, clean lines, the kind of architecture that spoke quietly rather than shouting, a stark contrast to Summit's aging glass panels, which always felt one decision away from cracking. Inside, the lobby hummed with purposeful movement. No frantic energy, no disorganized scrambling. Just steady, focused professionals moving like they understood exactly where they fit in the machine. A woman with warm eyes and a dark navy blazer approached me. "You must be Ryan. I'm Brooke. Jason's waiting for you." Her tone carried reassurance, not pity, and for a moment I felt the tension in my shoulders ease. She guided me through a corridor of glass conference rooms, each filled with teams deep in discussion. Not chaotic shouting, actual collaboration. When we reached the corner office, Brooke knocked once. "Come in," Jason's voice called. He stood by the window when I entered, hands in his pockets, city skyline stretching behind him like a backdrop for success. He turned, and for a moment the CEO disappeared, replaced by the man from the hospital bed. The one who'd seen my worst moment without judgment. Ryan. He greeted me simply. "I was hoping you'd say yes." I managed a small smile. I wasn't sure I'd be able to make it. My ribs have a mind of their own right now. "Sit." He motioned toward the chair across from his desk. "Pain can wait. Opportunity can't." As soon as I sat, he slid a slim folder toward me. Inside were documents, not contracts yet, but outlines, ideas, vision, plans for integrating new operational strategy into Pacific's infrastructure. "This," he said, "is what I believe you can build here." I stared at the pages. They weren't job responsibilities, they were blueprints. Blueprints for authority, autonomy, innovation. Things Summit had spent years pretending I didn't deserve. "You saw all of this from one conversation?" I asked quietly. "I saw it from 11 years of your reputation," he corrected. "Summit talked a lot about loyalty. What they never understood was that the reason your client stayed wasn't loyalty to the company. It was loyalty to you." That hit me deep. Deeper than I expected. He sat across from me. "Look, I'm not offering you a role out of sympathy. I'm offering it because Pacific has a gap only you can fill." My breath steadied. My pulse slowed. For the first time in a long time, I said, "This feels like something I'm choosing, not something I'm just trying to survive." A slow smile crossed his face. "Then let's choose it together." For the next 2 days, I tried to follow the doctor's instructions and rest, but my mind refused to cooperate. Every time I leaned back against the pillows, my thoughts returned to the folder Jason had shown me. Not the numbers or the projections, those were familiar territory, but the quiet promise woven between the pages. Build something that belongs to you. By Wednesday evening, I was finally able to move around the apartment without gripping furniture for balance. The pain was still there, but so was momentum. It pulled me forward. So I did something I hadn't done since the hospital. I opened my email, hundreds of unread messages, dozens from clients, and then the one name I had been expecting, yet dreading, Nicole Patterson. The subject line was ice cold, clarification needed regarding client communications. I clicked it open with a steady hand. "It has come to my attention that several clients have attempted to reach you. You are reminded that you are no longer an employee of Summit. Please refrain from responding to any messages to avoid violating your separation terms." My jaw tightened. There was no warmth, no apology, not even acknowledgement of the timing of my firing. Just the same arrogance she'd always used like a weapon. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened another email. One from Midwest Logistics, a client I had shepherded through 2 major equipment overhauls. "We heard about your medical leave. Could you confirm when you'll be available again? We prefer not to transition our account without speaking to you first." My pulse flickered. Not with fear, with realization. Even now, Summit was trying to replace me. But clients weren't just accepting it, they were asking for me. I closed the laptop and exhaled slowly. I wasn't powerless. I wasn't forgotten. I wasn't replaceable. The next morning, I met Jason again, this time in a smaller strategy room lined with digital whiteboards. He greeted me with a quiet nod, sliding a cup of coffee toward me. "You look steadier," he said. "I feel steadier." "Good, because there's something we need to discuss." He tapped a file on the table. "Summit is making moves. Fast ones. They've reassigned your entire portfolio to Nicole's niece." Of course it was. Ashley Patterson barely understood basic procurement, let alone the client relationships built on years of trust. Jason folded his hands. "Look, I don't want to push you, but clients reaching out to you directly, that's not something we can ignore." I met his gaze. Clear, certain, strengthening. "This isn't about revenge," I said quietly. "No," he agreed. "It's about direction, and the direction you choose now will define everything that follows." And in that moment, with the hum of Pacific's operations vibrating faintly through the walls, I knew Summit was no longer my home. My future was already pulling me somewhere else. By Friday morning, the tension surrounding Summit had begun to leak into the industry like a slow rumor. I felt it in every message that came through my phone. Not dramatic, not panicked, just tentative, curious. Clients sensed instability long before the public ever did. When I stepped into Pacific's office for our scheduled meeting, a controlled urgency pulsed through the halls. Not chaotic, organized, sharp, deliberate. Something was shifting. Jason was already in the strategy room. Jacket off, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked like a man preparing for an operation rather than a meeting. "We received 4 inquiries this morning," he said before I even sat down. "Clients asking directly whether you're available for consultation." My breath caught. 4? He nodded. "All from companies in your old portfolio." I sank slowly into the chair. "Nicole won't handle this well." "She already isn't," Jason replied, sliding a tablet toward me. On the screen was an internal memo from Summit that someone had anonymously forwarded to Pacific. A memo clearly written in panic. "Effective immediately, all inquiries regarding the operations division are to be redirected to Interim Director Ashley Patterson. Do not disclose employee transitions to clients unless instructed. Communications must remain controlled. Ashley as Interim Director." The disaster was practically writing itself. "There's more," Jason said quietly. "Pacific was contacted by a federal compliance coordinator this morning." My head snapped up. "Routine," he assured me. "But they asked whether we anticipated sudden client migrations. They've received whispers that Summit is restructuring aggressively." Something hollow spread in my chest. I had spent 11 years stabilizing that division. One stupid decision from Nicole had undone everything. "This is spiraling," I whispered. "It is," Jason said. "And you stand at the center whether you like it or not." He leaned back, studying me as if measuring whether I understood the scope of what was unfolding. "Ryan, if these clients move, it won't just be a transition. It will expose everything Nicole has been burying. And Summit's board won't stay blind forever." My pulse thudded painfully against my healing ribs. "I didn't want this," I murmured. "I know," he replied. "But wanting has nothing to do with where responsibility falls. You didn't ask for leverage, but you have it." Silence settled between us, heavy but strangely clarifying. Clients trusted me. Summit was unraveling, and Pacific was offering a path forward, one built on clarity, not fear. Finally, Jason spoke again. "Ready to talk next steps?" I exhaled slowly, the decision crystallizing in the air between us. "Yeah," I said. "I think it's time." That weekend, my apartment felt too quiet for the storm gathering outside its walls. Emails pinged in slow, steady intervals, each one another sign that Summit's carefully painted surface was cracking. A few came from former colleagues, written in the vague, cautious tone of people who knew their messages could be monitored. But the ones that mattered came from clients. Polite, direct, uneasy. "We've been reassigned to someone unfamiliar. Can you confirm your status? Our project timeline has stalled. Are you still consulting independently? We'd like to understand the transition plan with you, if possible." I read each message twice, feeling the weight of them settle on my ribs like a second injury. These weren't opportunistic inquiries. These were warnings. Quiet signals that Summit was wobbling without someone they trusted. Sunday afternoon, I met with Jason again at a quiet cafe near Pacific's campus. He arrived without an entourage, without a laptop, just a folder tucked under one arm and an expression that told me he already knew most of what I was about to say. "You've seen the messages," he said as soon as we sat. I nodded. "They're not asking about Summit, they're asking about me. That's why we need to be deliberate," he said, setting the folder between us. "Clients reaching out is one thing. Responding too quickly can give Nicole ammunition, but ignoring them sends the wrong message too." I exhaled slowly. "So what do you suggest?" He opened the folder. Inside were drafts, communications plans, legal protocols, transition frameworks. Everything structured, careful, precise. "We create clarity," he said. "No promises, no contracts. Just a public update that you're exploring new opportunities. After that, we wait." I stared at him. "Summit will panic." "That's the point," he replied calmly. "Panic exposes truth." A chill slid down my spine. Not from fear, from recognition. Jason wasn't orchestrating revenge. He was building stability, structure, a path that didn't require destruction to be valid. But Summit was unraveling fast. That evening, one more email arrived from Great Lakes Manufacturing, one of the oldest accounts in my portfolio. "We were informed that your health condition prevents further collaboration. Please confirm if this is accurate. We prefer not to transition unless absolutely necessary. My fingers tightened around my phone. Nicole wasn't just replacing me, she was rewriting the narrative. Sickness, incapacity, silence, a convenient story to mask the truth. On Monday morning, I stepped into Pacific's lobby with a decision already solidified inside me. This isn't about choosing a side anymore, I told Jason when he approached. No, he agreed. This is about choosing your voice. And for the first time since the hospital, I felt ready to use it. By Tuesday morning, the industry current had shifted from whispers to a low, steady rumble. I could feel it in the elevator ride up to Pacific's 15th floor, the subtle hush when doors opened, the quick glances exchanged between employees, the quiet caution that only appeared when something big was beginning to unfold. Jason met me outside the strategy room, a tablet tucked beneath his arm. Summit issued a statement an hour ago, he said, leading me inside. My stomach tightened. About me? Indirectly. He slid the tablet across the table. The announcement was short, painfully short. Due to unforeseen circumstances, our operations division will undergo temporary restructuring. All inquiries will be redirected to Director Ashley Patterson. No mention of my firing. No mention of my absence. Just a sterile attempt to plug the widening cracks in their foundation. They're pretending nothing happened, I said, because acknowledging it means acknowledging their mistake. I leaned back, rubbing the tightness in my ribs. Every part of me wanted to believe this would settle on its own, that I could take the high road and let things unfold quietly. But then Jason opened another document. Ryan, you need to see this. Emails forwarded from someone inside Summit. Anonymous, untraceable. Teams scrambling to respond to client questions. Confusion about who was authorized to approve system changes. Requests redirected to Ashley piling up unanswered. Senior analysts questioning why they weren't informed of my termination. And then one line that made my blood run cold. If clients insist on speaking with him, tell them he is currently incapacitated and unavailable for future projects. My hands trembled, not from injury but from the sheer pettiness of it. They're framing you as too weak to continue, Jason said softly. They want to close the door before anyone realizes you didn't close it yourself. That's not incompetence, I said. That's sabotage. He nodded slowly. Which means you need to take ownership of your story. Publicly. I pressed my palms against the table, steadying myself even as frustration rose like a wave. I had spent years pulling Summit out of messes Nicole created. Years stabilizing their broken pipelines. And this lie, was their answer. What do you want me to say? I asked. The truth, Jason replied. Not an attack, not an accusation. Just clarity. Clients need to know you're not bedridden or silenced. They need to know you're standing and choosing your next step. I inhaled deeply, the movement tugging at my ribs. For the first time, the choice didn't scare me. Because it wasn't about revenge or even justice. It was about reclaiming the part of my life Nicole tried to erase with a single text message. I looked up at Jason, resolve forming cleanly in my chest. Then, let's tell them. By Wednesday morning, my public update was ready. Simple, professional, clear. After completing medical treatment, I'm evaluating new professional opportunities. I remain committed to supporting organizations that value stability, transparency, and long-term partnership. I will share more details soon. No attack, no drama, just truth. Pacific's communications director, Brooke, reviewed it twice before giving a calm nod. This tone will make Summit nervous, she said, which is exactly what they deserve. Jason waited beside her, arms crossed, watching my reaction more than the message. You don't have to post it today, he said quietly. Yeah, I replied. I do. Minutes later, the message went live on my LinkedIn profile. The reaction was instant. Notifications exploded across my phone. Likes, comments, private messages, and then direct emails from clients, from industry partners, from people inside Summit. It was like someone had cracked open a dam. The first email came from Midwest Logistics. We're glad to hear you're recovering. We suspected Summit wasn't telling us the full story. Then from Great Lakes Manufacturing. We paused all new requests until we could confirm your status. Please let us know where you land. We'll follow. And then a third message, the one that made my breath catch. I'm sorry. This shouldn't have happened to you. sent anonymously from a Summit internal address. I stared at that last line for a long time. Someone inside was watching this unfold. Someone who knew Nicole's story was falling apart. By noon, the situation escalated further. Brooke hurried into the conference room where Jason and I were reviewing transition frameworks. "There's something you both need to see," she said, voice tight. She set a printed report on the table, a summary of Summit's investor call, leaked less than an hour after it ended. And there it was, in black and white. Client retention risk elevated. Operational continuity unresolved. Leadership stability under review. And beneath those lines, a phrase that hit deeper than all the others. Key personnel departure continues to impact multiple accounts. Jason met my eyes over the report. That key personnel is you. A heavy silence settled between us, vibrating with the weight of everything Summit was trying to hide and failing to control. "This isn't a crack," he said quietly. "It's the beginning of an internal collapse." My chest tightened, not in fear, in recognition, because I finally understood. Summit hadn't simply lost me. They had lost the thread that held their entire operations network together. And Nicole was running out of places to hide. I closed the report, my decision settling like steel in my ribs. "Jason," I said steadily, "if Summit is falling apart, we need to be ready for what comes next." He nodded once, the corner of his mouth lifting. "Oh, we will be." That evening, as lights flickered across Pacific's windows, my phone buzzed with an anonymous message. "They're collapsing. You should see this." A second message followed. Screenshots from Summit's internal audit channel. Unauthorized system changes under Ashley's credentials. Client churn hidden in doctored reports. Nicole's panicked directives scattered across midnight timestamps. This wasn't mismanagement anymore. It was a quiet implosion. I sent everything to Jason. He called instantly. "Summit's board is meeting right now," he said. "Someone leaked the audit results. This is the moment." My chest tightened. "They'll blame me. They'll try," he said, "because it's easier than admitting the truth. The moment you were gone, everything they buried started surfacing." Minutes later, more messages arrived. From an old colleague, Nicole stormed out. Security took her badge. A second message, Ashley resigned, total chaos. I sank back in my chair, not triumphant, just finally free of the weight I had been carrying since the day Nicole fired me in that hospital bed. Jason stepped into the room a moment later, calmer now, as if he already understood what this ending meant for both of us. "You didn't cause their collapse, Ryan," he said. "Nicole did. You simply stopped holding the pieces together for her." I looked out at the city. Bright, steady, wide open. For the first time in years, the future didn't feel like a fight for survival. It felt like possibility. I took a slow breath, ribs aching, but spirit steady. "Then this," I said quietly, "is my clean break." Jason nodded. "And you're beginning."